Welcome, Cagesiders, to the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. Lucha Underground has had 14 weeks into their Season 2 out of 24 total. We got delayed a little bit on doing this podcast, but we'd like to get a mid-season review. And for that, I should say, I have a group of panelists with me here. Some of them you've seen before, some you have not. Let's first start off with my fellow moderator, 14 Fitzpatrick.
Hello, hello. How is everybody doing today on this lovely day?
And we're also going to go with the man currently styling his hair, Von Krieger.
Well, since Vampiro is doing announcing, I figured I'd do my hair like Jerry, only from the Misfits.
Okay. And then we also got Tanya Rogers, fellow Cagesider and quite the alumnus of Cageside Speaks. She's here to help us talk as well.
Hello, people.
And then we have a new guy here for his first show. It's Gabe13. Was that right, Gabe?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. Say hello, Gabe.
Hi, everybody.
That was your shot. That was your cue to go, hello, Gabe.
And, of course, I am KM Tierney, your friendly moderator, who's probably going to be not so friendly for this podcast, to be completely honest with everybody.
They didn't already know from the Salty Pearl avatar that I have, so...
Okay, in regards to Season 2, if you go on the actual reviews for Lucha Underground, whether it's here, whether it's Brandon Stroud over at Uprocks, a lot of people are very positive on it. Even I would say outside of Tanya, the actual staff of Cageside is very positive on Lucha Underground right now. I don't know how the rest of the panelists feel, but I do think you're going to find certain, shall we say, alternative viewpoints on Lucha Underground Season 2 here. So we're going to go ahead and just very quickly, let's give grade. We're going to give grades.
Ladies and gentlemen, let the whining begin!
Thank you, Krieger. We're going to go ahead with grades for the first half of the show, and I'm going to be pretty honest. Everybody, you can read my fan post history. You can even do the previous podcast we've done on Lucha Underground. I was a big fan of Season 1. Gave them a B+ or an A. Thought they were great. Season 2, and I'm going to get into why later, I'm giving it a D+ so far. We've had 14 episodes. I think we've had 5 of them that are good, and 9 that are either average to really bad. And I hope to talk about that and explain more, but I'm going to go with D+ so far. Fizz, what are you giving it for a grade?
F.
Whew. And I was the generous one. Krieger, what do you think so far?
I think you guys have been into the wacky tobacco because I think it's still the best wrestling program on television.
Excellent. We got some alternative viewpoints here. That's kind of what I wanted.
So what's your grade? What's your grade, though?
I don't...
No,
you don't have one?
If it's the best one on TV, you got to be able to give something. Come on, Krieger.
Well, it's the best by default. I'd give it an A.
Alrighty, very well, very well. Okay, so we've got a wide variety of opinions.
Curve. WWE's been down at D- for I don't know how long. NXT ranges from C to A depending on how well it's doing, but it's been kind of crappy lately. So
that's entirely fair. If we're looking at relative to the competition, I could see that. Okay, Gabe, how are you grading it so far?
I'll probably go with about a C. There's been some really good stuff and some stuff that just doesn't keep you awake.
Okay, and then Tanya, what are you going to be grading it here?
I'm gonna go with C-.
B-, you said?
C.
Oh, C-, okay.
Just because the things that irritate me, I can understand why some people wouldn't see them that way. And I do appreciate the stories that they're trying to tell here. Mm-hmm. It's just some of the execution I don't appreciate. So I'm going to go C-.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about some of these major angles, and I hope to explain at least a little bit why I was negative. We're going to first start with Katrina running the temple for the first half of the season, and I'll be honest, a lot of my D+ comes from Katrina running the temple. I loved Katrina in Season 1. As a matter of fact, now that she's no longer in control of the temple, I love her again. She was not made out to fill Dario Cueto's shoes. She could not carry those segments on her own, and most of what she was doing wasn't making any sense. I thought what was great about Season 1 of Lucha Underground was they had a very good attention to detail. All those little details were explained. They never explained why Katrina would be able to take over the temple. Okay, Dario's absent, but why would everybody all of a sudden accept her? What has Katrina got over
Well,
them?
because she's got this great big old murder monster guy, and, well...
Yeah, she does have Mill.
So why would people show up if she's controlling it and she has this big monster? What is the incentive for these other people to come when she's controlling everything?
Yes.
Hey, fame, fortune, exposure.
Well, you got to show that. You got to show that kind of work.
Shit out of somebody.
With Dario in Season 1, they showed that. Dario could be an insufferable prick to people, but he was always dangling the carrot of fame and fortune, or in the case of Big Rick, he'd just literally start throwing $100 bills at him.
That part they didn't explain. The only explanation
They don't explain it on any other TV either. Why does Roman Reigns go out and get his face punched in week in and week out?
I absolutely agree, but what made Lucha Underground so good in Season 1, they took the time to show that work. And I thought that was one of the things I loved about the show, is they showed the work. I don't think they're showing it as much. I think they're doing a little better job of it now that Dario is back. But for that first half of the season, they were just kind of throwing shit against the wall and not really bothering to explain it. And why would anybody listen to Katrina? Okay, well, she's got Mill. Are these people getting paid? I mean, how are they making money without Dario there? I mean, there's a lot of... Yeah. Is it the money laundering joke that we always make? Is it a thing for El Chapo? So I really think that Katrina didn't do very well as far as the temple. Now, once Matanza and Dario came back, I thought she's done very well returning to the supporting cast member and kind of the one that either guides or tries to guide the increasingly unhinged Mil Muertes. I think Mill's done a very good job in Season 2, whether it's him sitting on his throne and observing the matches. Even within a sling, he still managed to look badass to sling, I thought. And I really liked that.
I really liked the touch that they removed the bands entirely, and that's where they put Mill's throne.
Actually, he absorbed the souls of the mariachi band, which is possibly the reason why Mil Muertes lost the title belt in the first place, because you have so many souls fighting for control with this one man who's got 999 lives at this point. I get the feeling that Mil skipped training days for Moonlight Mariachi Midnight bands because Katrina hates mariachi because it messes with her evil feng shui in the temple, and he and Matanza are going out and doing rockin' mariachi bands at the clubs at night.
I suddenly want to read Fitzpatrick's fan fiction about the Lucha Underground temple.
I know, right?
So, is there anything other, like, anybody else want to talk about with Mil Muertes, what he has done? I mean, probably my favorite match of the season so far has been Mil versus Matanza in Godzilla versus Mothra style. I loved it.
His match with Phoenix was also really good. The title.
They got great chemistry. I remember that one part of that match where part of Mil's mask came ripped off, and he's got this flowing hair coming out, and he's got this super pissed off look on his face. Oh man, it was great.
It was. They are very good together. They are. The dynamic between them in the ring is, they fit. It is a good fit with those two.
Well, Mil versus Matanza so far, it's just a preview. Basically, all they did. I just watched it earlier today. It was primarily punchy, kicky stuff.
Yeah, that was.
It's like a callback to the '80s. It's a big clubbering hoss fight.
And I loved it.
Yeah, it was really a good match. To expand on the point that Kevin made about Katrina, this is the major difference between somebody who's a professional actor in Dario and somebody who's just getting into acting like Katrina. She's transitioning from a wrestling role to an acting role, and you can see just the major difference in difficulty of doing that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Gabe, I thought I heard you trying to say something. Is there something you wanted to add into this?
I was gonna say for the part you were mentioning earlier with the only reason Katrina was in control, the only reason I could think of is she had both the belts. She controlled the two major belts.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And she did, but why would those belts matter to those people? It's just I wanted them to really come out and really show their work on it. I guess that's where I was really disappointed on it. And in a sense, Krieger's right. It's as nonsensical as a lot of what you see on WWE Raw, and that's true. But I also liked it that first season because it was a genuine alternative to the nonsense.
The argument for Lucha Underground was that this is not like Raw. This is not a show that's made like that. So if they're starting to mimic what Raw and WWE is doing.
Well, it's not more mimicking Raw. It's more of they're using the standard set. They're using the standard set of pro wrestling tropes, and you're getting down on them for it because they're being more of a pro wrestling show this season than they were being a TV show about a pro wrestling show.
See, I disagree with that. NXT, when it was doing good, was avoiding just as many of the pro wrestling tropes that was mentioned, and they were very much a pro wrestling show. I think in the mid to late 80s, when you had WCW NWA Championship Wrestling, they were doing very good, and they avoided a lot of the very popular tropes. So I don't think it's a matter of it has to be a TV show versus a pro wrestling show. Yeah. It is still a pro wrestling show. Tropes are okay when you're not only doing tropes, and I think Lucha Underground is falling back into a lot of tropes this season rather than getting creative. And I think you can get creative but still be a pro wrestling show.
Yeah, I agree with there. It's the creativity just doesn't seem to be there this season as there has been in the past. Like the writers will come up with, oh well, here's random idea number 37.5. Let's see if it works. And
well, the thing to remember is also that last season they were basically starting from scratch. This season they have an entire roster of already built-up guys there.
And that's fair. That's fair.
They've also brought in people, for the most part, and how people debut is the same way NXT debuts people they don't use for vigilantes, too, which is something I've noticed, which is they lose. They're your enhancement talent. But they built them up as you build up PJ Black to come in, and he loses.
I'm entirely fine with that. PJ Black sucks. Sorry.
I'm just saying how they present them, and then they have them come in and lose, instead of just bring them in randomly and they lose. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of a tough thing because on the one hand but also I liked how even in season 1, the shittiest of shitty talent still had a backstory. El Mariachi Loco was a dude Dario picked up off the streets, and if he won, he'd get to play a song. He never did. I liked that idea, but I liked the fact that they did that. That was part of the charm, is they gave stories to everybody.
Yeah.
You could even do it, they debut, and then give a backstory, too, just other ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did that with Killshot this season. He was just a dude in a mask that hung around with Big Rick and the Mac, and this season he got a backstory.
I do think he has a fantastic backstory. As so far as out of those that have been done, I actually think his is the best. So that's actually, I would say, the backstories have been hit and miss, but Killshot was a really big hit, I think.
Yeah, it might have been the best backstory I can remember from anybody of how they started them out. Phoenix's one made sense for how they used him, but they didn't give him much of that beforehand either.
Mm-hmm.
Because Phoenix is basically the... what is the terminology that you could use for planets? Phoenix was basically a black hole of charisma that every other wrestler got stuck in. For the
All right,
most part.
we will get to Phoenix shortly. He's going to be there on the agenda. There's one more main angle I want to cover here, and that is Johnny Mundo versus they call him Cage.
Here we go.
This is something I think Tanya is going to want to speak a lot on because it also involves the introduction of Taya, and I'm just going to give the floor to Tanya on this one really quick and just let her speak her thoughts.
Okay.
She's very passionate about this.
Yes, it really turned me off. Like, the match between Cage and Taya was... It really upset me, especially seeing what's going on in wrestling with women's wrestling, and in that match, the match was booked so that a crowd could cheer a much bigger man beating up a smaller woman. And I had a problem with every aspect of that. It seemed like abuse. The commentary, they're like, somebody called 911. Oh, well, she deserves this. It really, really touched the nerve. It was almost to the point where I didn't want to have anything to do with Lucha Underground anymore. As a woman, and how anyone could say, well, this is making advancements toward... No, what they did with Ivelisse and Mil Mortes, that told a story. I don't have no... Why do Cage and Mundo not like each other? They just don't like the way each other look? It's just one day, one of them was in the ring and the other one cut a promo on each other, and bam, there's the feud. No, like... And
no,
then
I do believe that they were teammates in the last Trios tournament, if I recall correctly, or they were teamed up, or something like that. And one of them missed and did the usual tag team miscommunication and hit the other.
Is it really clear? And then why did Johnny Mundo bring in a woman?
Well, I can answer that one.
Cage?
I can answer that one. The original plan, if you remember, at the end of Lucha Underground Season 1, was for his real-life girlfriend, Melina, to be his valet.
Yeah.
The only problem is Melina made Ivelisse look like Miss Congeniality.
Okay.
She was so
it would be
impossible to
Melina
work with.
doing...
She was kicked out, and Taya was her replacement.
But I still don't get how the angle helps anybody. Like it didn't make Cage look good.
It makes Taya look basically Taya look like fearless and kind of a little bit of a screw loose, as a Johnny Mundo is a cowardly dipshit who hides behind his girlfriend, who is basically fearless and wants to fight people.
Okay, so is the payoff going to be that she turns on him?
How the fuck should I know? I'm not a writer.
I think the payoff just happened too. But I don't know.
In the Cage match, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where Johnny Mundo brained Taya with a chair.
Yeah, but that has
which is even better.
Exactly. They're continuously using this poor woman as a whipping post for the angle for the men.
Johnny set himself up for it, but I get what your point on Cage and Taya.
The thing is, she's a filthy heel. Her job is to get people to hate her, and then when bad things happen to her, people cheer because she's the bad guy.
There's that, but I also think
I understand the concept, but the image. If you see that image of Cage, no, you don't know any backstory. You see that match with Taya and Cage, and you're not disgusted. I just don't know.
And I also think it's worth pointing out.
It looks like domestic violence to me.
Taya is bigger than fucking Rey Mysterio Jr. is, and Rey Mysterio Jr. has wrestled for I don't know how long. Rey Mysterio has wrestled the fucking Big Show. He's wrestled the match.
Here's a good point. That is very true. Taya does not. Rey Mysterio wrestles as an underdog. When in that match of Taya and Cage, Taya was trying to work 50-50 with him. She was trying to work 50-50 with Cage. Yeah, that's not an underdog. That's just pretty much him just whooping on a woman.
One thing at the start of that match is Cage was like, all right, it was a no DQ match, so everything was legal. But at first he's like, I'm just gonna wrestle her straight up, and then she brought out the weapon, and then that's when he started using the weapons.
And we'll talk about that. I think part of we'll get to that in a second. I wanted to point out that this match actually did cause a lot of controversy throughout the wrestling industry, and that it was been widely reported Triple H saw that match and was furious and instructed his lieutenants to tell the talent on the indies, if you're any of the women involved or any of the men involved in intergender, we're not going to sign you. Outside of Candice LeRae, pretty much no women are involved in intergender, and if they are and they want to be on WWE's radar, they stop it. And in this case, it was a matter of he's telling that to the men as well. And I guess I would just want to ask really quick, what are people's thoughts on that? I mean, do we really need intergender on the indies? I would honestly think outside of maybe Ivelisse and Candice.
On the indies, I would say yes, because not all the because let's face it, like 80 or 90% of indie wrestlers are tiny little guys. They're not very big. I mean, I'm a huge guy. I am literally bigger than 95% of the people in WWE, either height-wise or weight-wise. So, and it's people my size. They're not very common at all. I went to a summer fair years ago, and I'm standing literally head and shoulders over the crowd, looking around. There are not people who are over 6 feet tall. They are not particularly common. You don't get the great big guys very often. So what you have to do, if you're in a limited geographic area, is you will let whoever you have who is available to wrestle. So that means you'll basically have to you'll run intergender matches on occasion out of necessity, because that's what your roster is.
Okay.
And it's on a lot of the indie circuit, it's not that big of a size mismatch, because the women tend to be the bigger women and the men tend to be the normal average-sized men. Mm-hmm. So it's usually they're in the everybody, male and female, is 130 to 200 pound range. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. And also, interestingly enough, if you look at Lucha Underground, even the big guys in Lucha Underground aren't that big compared to the big guys in WWE. I think the only guys on the roster that are over 240 pounds are Matanza, Cage, and Mill. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say on the intergender question?
Sure. I'll let you go first, Gabe.
I was going to say, and this relates to a character that I was going to mention later, but since we brought up intergender right now, if the only I don't really watch a lot of the indies, but on one of the characters in the show, Joey Ryan, he probably had the best example of an intergender match with who now is his fiance, and it relates to his character, which I'll bring up later.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Tanya, Fizz.
I understand about like the independent, like women. It's not many opportunities for women to wrestle each other, so I can understand why, money-wise, they have to survive. They got to eat. That they will take that. I would hope that this edict from Triple H means that there's more an effort on the independent scene to get women's wrestling involved, because WWE is where everybody wants to be. So
the problem with that is that for basically her entire lifetime, Fabulous Moolah basically dominated the entire women's wrestling scene, and she was not very nice about it.
And she wasn't good.
Guys, hang on. On three. 1, 2, 3. Fuck Moolah.
Fuck Moolah. She put women like God. The women today are still working to rehab the image that this terrible she wasn't even a good wrestler. She sucked. I've never seen a good Fabulous Moolah match. She sucked. She sucked ass.
And
God,
she was
I hate
basically
her.
a pimp.
Yes. God, it was just so terrible. Like
And then WWE with the whole divas thing, and the women's wrestling matches and hiring models rather than actual women wrestlers.
Yes, it's so
I
much
think-
to
And unfortunately, as Tanya said, there's not a lot of opportunities. I mean, just recently, TNA went to Jenna and Charmel levels of bad with Shelly Martinez versus Rebel.
Oh,
And
yes.
we were talking about this yesterday in the Daily, which I really recommend. Come check us out in the Daily. There's a lot of stuff going on, but you learn a lot about pro wrestling in that area. And we were watching it in the Daily yesterday, and it was just, this is 2016, and Shelly Martinez is wearing an outfit where her chest is falling out.
Yes.
Rebel is presenting
Her
herself.
chest and her behind. Too.
Yeah, chest and behind. Rebel is presenting herself as a stripper. I mean, the first 30 seconds of the match, she's doing the splits and gyrating on the bottom rope. So you kind of know where this is going. And it's a very bad match. There's the hilariously awful finish to where Shelly goes for a suicide dive, trips and gets caught in the ropes and flips upside down caught in the ropes, and Rebel takes about 2 minutes to untangle her, and when she's rolling her in the ring, actually manages to accidentally pin her. But that's women's wrestling outside of.
Let's not talk about TNA. It's like talking about the neighbor's retarded child.
Well, unfortunately,
God.
hot take. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not those of Cageside Speaks or their participants.
Lol TNA, lol TNA, lol TNA.
I think but it makes an overall point. There's not a lot of venues for women to wrestle in very respectable outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Shimmer like the only one that I can think of?
It's Shimmer, Shine. WSU has been trying to get better for the last couple of years.
Shimmer only taped like twice a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tape often, no.
So, anyway, I'm really happy about this because this is really good therapy, letting all of this out, this anger, this rage, this stress about Lucha Underground.
Shout, let it all out. These are the things we can do without. Come on.
I mean, I do not like intergender wrestling. I feel as though that, to a certain extent, some people in the wrestling industry are responsible for that push. And I like some of these intergender wrestlers. I like Candice LeRae. I like Heidi Lovelace. But at the same time, my mother was a therapist. She counseled so many abused women and children back in the 1980s and 90s that this is very, very uncomfortable to me, intergender matches. I watched an intergender match that happened on National Pro Wrestling Day a few years ago, and I was featuring Miss Heidi Lovelace, of course, and I was so uncomfortable watching this match. It didn't feel right to me. And Cage and Taya, same situation. You've got a much bigger muscle meathead doing these reckless spots to this tiny woman. One slip up and he could accidentally crush this girl.
The thing that got me is not that the match happened. It's that it was engineered so that the crowd would be cheering this abuse towards this woman. It's someone who has experienced abuse and who has dealt with other women in abuse. It set off signals in my head that did not. It kind of damaged. Right. It damaged the Lucha Underground brand for me. And I really don't mind intergender. I just feel like if there's a woman, usually the woman's the face in the match, or if the woman is the heel, why? It should be the guy should be like Rey Mysterio size. The guy as a face, big guy, obviously has the advantage beating the shit out of a woman. I don't see how I can cheer that. And I think that was a misstep what is the point of this angle?
Mhm.
That's what I want to know.
If I remember correctly, they didn't use the Brock Lesnar weakness on Cage either, did they?
Well, he is a
The-
machine. I'm not sure if he actually has gonads.
Testicles. My mic was muted. Anyway, as I was trying to say, the options are either you don't put women in feuds with big guys, which limits their options. You assign women only to be baby faces, which limit their options, or you have the Stephanie McMahon route, where she's an evil bitch but never gets her comeuppance. So, and none of those options are particularly satisfying.
I think that's a myth about Stephanie. She gets comeuppance all the time. People just want her to see her get her brains bashed in. That's what it is. She gets comeuppance all the time. That's why she has a husband, so people can beat him.
Well, no, the thing is that she's actually experienced physical consequences for her actions precisely once that I can recall. And that was when Roman accidentally speared her at WrestleMania.
Well, you do not remember the history of Stephanie McMahon. She's been pedigreed and punched and kicked. It doesn't happen all of the time, but she has. With Vicky Guerrero, with what she did, that was comeuppance. People can come up on her all the time. It doesn't happen all the time. No, it doesn't, because she's the boss's daughter. Yeah. Of course, they're not going to book her that way. But to say that Stephanie never gets any comeuppance is not the truth. She was just carted off in handcuffs last year with the crowd chanting yes, that's comeuppance. Like, it happens. It's just maybe it's not satisfactory enough.
So not
for
all.
people.
Basically, I think what Tanya's trying to say is not all comeuppance needs to be physical, and sometimes the best comeuppance is not physical.
Agree, right there.
Okay.
With Stephanie and her role, it's not going to be physical.
Right,
what I'm trying to say is Stephanie,
let's let Krieger wrap this up. He's got the last word.
Made to be a bad guy. Mm-hmm. She never really ever seems to lose anything. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. She has occasional moments of weakness, but then it's right back to being the big bossy, bad, evil lady running the show.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's never really any consequences.
Yeah. All right, as we move on to that, I guess we'll and that's a very good point that Krieger makes. As we move on, we'll just point out there's a lot of difficulty with the matter of intergender, because it is a question of how you book them, and hopefully you guys can have a better discussion about it going elsewhere. We have some other things to go on. We've talked about some negative things. Let's start moving to some of the individual performers, and we're going to start with one I like, Jack Evans. God bless Jack Evans. May his kind increase. I want more wrestlers like Jack Evans. Heels who do not give a shit about how they look. They are there to show ass and get people over. And my God, does it work really good.
He thinks he's God's gift to everything.
It's great.
He gets his face punched in on a regular basis, and it is glorious.
It's great. It is. It's awesome. Jack Evans, yeah, he's the type of guy that could get a lot of people over. A lot. He can talk. He can work. And like as Kevin said, he does not care if he gets his ass kicked. Great.
And it's just, I really think that's a point of, and I really wish there were more wrestlers like that. They're not really concerned about looking cool or looking great. They're concerned with people getting over. And you don't see that a lot in American wrestling. As I think Fizz will understand, we watch CMLL in the daily every Friday night. And some of the old school Rudos, that's how they are. I mean, Negro Casas is not really out there to look cool. He's there to kick people in the balls, get you riled up, and once people are riled up, he's there to show ass and take sit-out power bombs off the ring apron at 55 years old. And it's great. And the same with younger heels.
So he's basically a less dangerous Undertaker at this point. Is absolutely ancient and exists only to kick people in the balls.
Actually,
But
Cassius
he
is
can go
more
in the ring.
dangerous.
He can go in the ring,
Really?
though, too. Yeah, and that's the amazing thing about Negro Casas is he's 55 years old, but the dude can absolutely go. And he takes some pretty big bumps for people. But in the end, he makes people look really good. It's one of the younger heels in CMLL.
So not like the Undertaker then.
No,
Yeah,
no.
no.
That's the big difference.
No.
People look good with Negro Casas. And then
Nobody
Roosh,
can
one of
go
the younger heels, Roosh. Roosh is really good at making people. He gets people throwing drinks at him in the crowd. He pisses
What?
them
A
off
douche
so
is
bad.
getting drinks thrown at him in the crowd? What?
Roosh. He's getting people throwing drinks at him in the crowd because he's more interested in riling the crowd up, pissing them off, and making it look good when somebody beats him.
Yeah. Who does that in Lucha Underground apart from Jack Evans, who we've discussed?
I think Mill does a little bit of it. Mill is out there to get hated.
Well, he is. He's an older luchador. You know, he understands that concept. I'm not sure a lot of the younger guys really understand how to do that because they're also in an environment that is not Mexico. They're in the Americas. You know, they're in North America. They're in this.
Oh, Mundo does it too. Mundo gets a lot of
Mundo,
Yes, he
to turn
does.
heel, Mundo is the cowardliest chicken shit.
Yeah, he's done a very good heel job.
But he's also arrogant and he likes showing off. So, but yeah.
I have
But
a
he's-
question about that though.
Okay.
Is it just the wrestlers or is it the environment with fans that have kind of changed? Because and I'm guilty of this. I prefer the bad guys most of the time over the good guys, and I can't, heels get cheered a lot. So doesn't it make it harder
Jack
to
Evans don't
beat
get
on
cheered.
someone?
Well, the problem is that I think what's happening is that we're in this kind of transitional stage with professional wrestling where it used to be it was simple black and white characters, and we've moved on to more complex, detailed people, but the pro wrestling industry really hasn't gotten on with that.
Yeah.
1 second, I need to take a drink of water.
I was gonna say that looked like a bong from a certain angle there. You had your microphone like that was part of the water bottle. It looked like a bong.
It's not literally tonsil, so
Medicinal marijuana is legal in my state. No, as I was saying, the reason people cheer heels is because they're the more complex, the more interesting characters, while a lot of the baby faces are there just going, gosh golly, I'm a pretty cool guy who does moves, and I'm nice and friendly, so why don't you just go darn cheer for me?
So you saying that the problem is they don't give the faces they don't give people a reason to cheer.
Yep,
The
they
faces.
don't give the faces a character, they don't give them a reason to cheer.
And
It's-
meanwhile, the heels are getting a character, and that connects with the audience more. I can
Correct.
understand.
Okay.
I can understand that.
All right. Anything else before we move on to some of the other characters and a bit of a lightning round here? Anything else on Jack Evans people want to talk about?
no, he's really good at his job.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He's good at
Second
his job.
person in the lightning round here, King Cuerno, El Hijo de Fantasma, or the son of the ghost, although he's pretty much been a ghost on Lucha Underground ever since the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
Dave
know,
Meltzer reported in his wrestling. One second, guys. Meltzer reported in his Wrestling Observer newsletter that King Cuerno was very unhappy with his state and things. Tried to go to WWE. Lucha Underground blocked it with his contract. Is there any hope for this guy now that it's clear he doesn't want to be there? Lucha Underground's kind of pissed at him. Is there any hope for him? Because he's a great character.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
He was one of my favorite characters in season 1. It's just this cold, uncaring hunter type
Hmm.
who's just stalking his opponents and taking them out, and I just liked it.
And I might add,
He-
he has the prettiest
Yeah.
move in the business. The suicide dive is the best looking move in all.
Yeah.
The arrow from the depths of hell, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. When he signals for it, I get chills. To me, his role in Lucha Underground kind of reminds me of how WWE was using Cesaro a little bit.
Okay,
You know,
yeah,
get
that's a good point.
get this person with Cuerno, make them look good, and then just throw Cuerno over to the side and let's move on with this person and move on with their storyline.
Basically, he was the gatekeeper to the main event scene for the good guys.
Yep.
If you could overcome Cuerno, you would go right to the top.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
That's exactly what he is.
Which it isn't a bad spot to be in, but
But he's not even
he
that
just-
now. He's just nothing.
yeah.
I don't think they've used him since the whole gift to the gods thing.
No, I haven't.
Aztec Warfare was the last match he was in, I think.
Mhm. And he really didn't do much in Aztec Warfare either.
Did he get pinned by Matanza?
No, he was eliminated early.
No, he didn't even get that honor.
So, with Cuerno, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy. I think he's interesting, but he really does need a change of scenery. Probably should go to WWE if he can get his contract situation with Lucha Underground taken care of, because Lucha Underground apparently is acting like a bunch of immature 5-year-olds.
Well, I think they're trying to protect they do have a contract. I think what's going to happen though is they're going to devalue him so much by the time that contract comes up, nobody's going to care.
It was he wanted to participate in the global cruiserweight thing, didn't he?
Well, he wanted to straight up leave. He's not being treated that well in AAA. He's a young guy. He's under 50.
Okay,
So
31 or 32, whatever. One of those two.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's probably got things more to do with AAA than just Lucha Underground, and the AAA stuff is bleeding over into Lucha Underground.
yes, that's what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, it's bleeding over massively. They're having a lot of issues with pay. They're having a lot of issues with their booking team. Conan apparently is left AAA, so now that might be one of the reasons why the structure problem in Lucha Underground is a lot more noticeable now in Season 2, is because they keep losing agents. You know?
Oh, if I recall correctly, AAA is Lucha Underground's one of their primary sponsor things.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of a behind-the-scenes parent. It's not official, but it's pretty much all of their talent is AAA talent.
So if AAA is having this huge upheaval, it's going to carry over a bit into Lucha Underground, I would presume. So I think that might be what we're experiencing.
And that upheaval actually allows us to bleed into the next subject, Pentagon Jr.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Now,
Poor
Pentagon,
guy.
if you remember, let's do a little bit of backstory here. Pentagon was the breakout star of Season 1. Maybe Ivelisse as well, but definitely Pentagon Jr. He was the breakout star of Season 1. And it's been confirmed by Vampiro on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, as well as Eric Van Wagenen, executive producer. The original plan was for Pentagon to beat somebody at Lucha Underground, believed to be Alberto El Patron, but nobody's saying that for sure. The person refused to do the job at Pentagon, and then he was kind of left to languish because, hang on, someone's got some stuff bumping in the background there. Okay,
That was me, I'm sorry.
Now, Pentagon was kind of a mid-carder, and unfortunately, in Mexico, even with his huge surge in popularity, and it's not just in America, he's becoming a big deal in Mexico. AAA still views him as a mid-carder.
Really?
Now, this year, he won one of their major tournaments, and people thought that was going to be the beginning of a push for him. He instantly became a mid-carder, and now he's the second act on shows. So AAA doesn't view him very well. And I think in Season 2, everybody thought after the Vampiro saga went over, which was the replacement for who he couldn't beat, now that Vampiro is his master, everything was going to look up for Pentagon. Instead, he's knocked off TV shortly.
Well, the thing with Pentagon is, up until he got derailed by Matanza, he never really, in character, experienced much of a setback. I think his biggest thing was Sexy Stars stopped him from breaking somebody's arm once.
But I think his original setback was nobody listened to him in the beginning. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to build him back up, but I think he was already built up at the end of season 1. Nobody looked at him, and he built himself up. He got himself mega over, and even as season 2 starting, he's being clowned by Prince Puma in their matches. He's clearly their inferior. He's clearly Mill's inferior, and he was damn sure Matanza's inferior, and now they're doing an injury and redemption story with him, which... I mean, okay, we'll wait to see how that plays out, but I don't think it's been very satisfying so far.
Well, no, it wouldn't be very satisfying because this is his downward period before he goes upward again. You have to have highs and lows with the character, and with Pentagon Jr. just because people just downright love the guy because he's interesting, he's got a unique look, he's got a catchphrase, he's a very good wrestler. And basically, I'm thinking they're using him to get some of their other guys a bit more over because he doesn't need to win every single match, win all the time, because he's basically like Lucha Underground's version of Stone Cold or John Cena. He doesn't need to be the top guy.
Except the difference is they pushed Stone Cold to the moon.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is he doesn't need to be on the top winning 100% of the time because people are just going to go nuts for him no matter what.
This is my problem, though. You said he's like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Did WWE use Stone Cold to build other people up? No, they put the title on him and rode his popularity until the wheels fell off, and the wheels never fell off. See, I don't understand. If you have this breakout star, build them up. Make them the main. If everybody wants the guy to be the main attraction, why isn't he?
And I think what Krieger explained is very true. That is how they view him. I just think there's a very big disconnect between how Lucha Underground and AAA views him and how the crowd views him, and it's a glaring disconnect.
He's also one of the luchadors that's not as big on all the flippy stuff, and he's more of a hoss for a smaller guy too.
He is. He's not really a traditional what you would think when you think of luchador in the ring. He isn't.
Mm-hmm.
He's much more mat-based than just flippy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might actually be one of the bases of the problems, because you have people backstage who are very traditionalist about Lucha Libre, and they might not necessarily view this guy who's supposed to be the guy that bumps for the smaller luchadors who are doing the high-flying stuff in the main event slot. But the thing is that this is the offshoot promotion for AAA. This is the opportunity for Pentagon Jr. to become the big star, because there's no concern about, he's taking a spot from 47-year-old L.A. Park over in AAA because we want to push L.A. Park because he's got a name. It's Lucha Underground. There's nothing really built here at this point. Have him be one of the 4 foundations. The 4
I will
pillars
not
of
having you be search the name of L.A. Park, good sir.
I know, but he's 47 years old and broken down, but... He's like, now you're in a situation where you can build him as one of your pillars for this new promotion, which is now in its 2nd season, and they're not doing that. They want him to just be the guy that bumps for the smaller guys, or for Rey Mysterio, for whatever reason, because he's got a name. They've allowed the names of big names to dominate over the guys that they are trying to push. The thing that drew me to Lucha Underground at first was because I never see these kind of people in WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Other than Rey Mysterio, I don't really recall anybody who's a big name coming in and doing the main event scene. Well, he wasn't really the main event scene, and I'm pretty sure everybody thought him and Tejano were butts. So,
Okay, now speaking of Rey Mysterio, and I actually think this is a case where, at least so far, I don't know if it'll stay this way, that they're using him properly. He's being used to get over El Dragon Azteca Jr.
Oh yes, I like that. Yes, I like that little angle they have going.
Yeah, Dragon Azteca Jr. and getting over their homegrown guy Prince Puma.
Yeah, and this is a case of, now once again, who knows if it stays this way, especially AAA's obsession with older guys, although Ray's not 50 yet, so he's not going to draw. He's not a big draw to AAA until he's 50 years old.
But he has no knees, so.
Have you seen some of their other main event talent? They don't have any back, but they're still out there.
I watched Triple Mania last year, and I have to say that was the first time that a pay-per-view has literally made me nauseous.
Yeah, one very good. No. One very good, but no.
Can't hear the second announcer. Can sure as fuck hear that one asshole in the crowd that's banging on the bike horn like it's connected to his heart. If I stop talking, the blood will stop flowing, and I will die.
So yeah, I think this is
like
one case
some
where
rural Mexican kid with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. My wish is to see all the pro wrestling matches until I die. And his medical equipment is just so terrible. They have a bike horn pumping his blood. That's what it is.
Oh man, there's a lot of hot takes and fan fiction on this podcast, people.
The thing about Pentagon Beads, just I don't understand. If you're an upstart promotion, and you really there's not many people there that when they started that were draws, or and then you get this guy that becomes hot, and the people who watch the show love him, and the crowd loves him, and you don't just go all in on this guy.
Well, the thing is, they could be trying to do a kind of Daniel Bryan type thing, where.
But why, when he's gone over? It seems like a waste to me. Why don't you just run with it?
It makes it more satisfying in the end when he finally does manage to get over.
You also have to remember he went from. You also have to remember that he started out as a heel, and they basically, as soon as he attacked Mill, that was like, oh, now he's kind of a babyface. So you build him as a babyface? But they did that but even when WWE switched with Austin at the double turn at 13, they just ran with Austin as a babyface and just had him win.
Well, if that was the switch, I can understand what Von Krieger's saying, because if they're going the Stone Cold method, Stone Cold didn't get to the title till a whole year later. So I can understand what Von Krieger's saying about that. I just don't. I wish they would, because he's my favorite. So I'm biased here. Like he's very. I love Pentagon Jr. Like, he was the reason why I kept tuning in at first, because some of the other stuff wasn't really catching me, and then this guy comes out and starts breaking people's arms.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's. I just want to mention, interesting enough, that all the Disciples of Death are guys that basically vanished after Pentagon broke their arm.
Now there's only one left.
Yep. The other two are dead, legitimately. They got their hearts ripped out, so.
Well, you can't really rip out hearts of people who are basically moved like sacks of flour.
Well, he ripped out two.
Silly, sacks of flour don't move.
Yeah, but they could have done a better job than the DOD did. To be honest.
Guys, we have precious time on the podcast. I just want to ask this question: do we really want to waste time talking about the Disciples of Death?
Of course not.
No, not really.
It's connected to the Pentagon.
I'll just say they're basically the Lucha Underground equivalent of the Power Rangers Putty Patrol.
They are.
Yeah, let's just move on from them right now. Okay, there's one character that I want to talk about in particular, and then I'll quickly open up the floor for some other ones. Let's talk about Phoenix. Now, I know Fizz has some takes on Phoenix. I will say with him, Phoenix is very outside of Lucha Underground and AAA. The dude's actually pretty dynamic. He's been on the American indie scene, and he's been pretty dynamic. And with the right opponent in Lucha Underground, mainly Mil Mortes, or as Katrina say, Mil Mortes, he's been very dynamic there as well. But I think he's kind of struggled with some of the other people. He really kind of strikes me, and he's also really young. I think he's only like 23 right now. He really strikes me as that guy who, at this stage of his career, needs somebody with him to really shine. And I don't know. What do you guys think about Phoenix?
He worked really well with Mil in his matches. He's so far the only person to beat Mil Mortes in a one-on-one match. They kept that running from season 1, which is how you could figure out, you could have figured out he was going to beat Mil for the title when he did. He's young. He showed a lot of respect to Ray. He would probably work well with him if they do anything there, but they're both baby faces unless he turns heel. I mean, he's the guy they tried to push immediately and probably didn't have as much character as other guys.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit more to his story. Like, I understand, like, he just needs a little bit more depth to me. He seems like kind of flat character, and if he's not working with Mil, there's really no story there. They seem kind of connected, but Mil can go off and do other things, and it's interesting. But I'm not sure about Phoenix yet.
No, you just made me think of somebody you just went on a rant on about Phoenix. Which is Finn, but we're not going there.
No, we're not. Let's keep this on Lucha Underground here.
There's a rant about that on another podcast you guys can listen to.
Yes.
Oh, well,
right.
I guess that could be a apt comparison.
Okay, anybody else got some takes on Phoenix here?
I mean, if they want to push the guy, it's good because he's one of the few guys that they have that actually is a AAA performer who is a young guy. But at the same time, he's just so not there. Probably so. Like, Pentagon Jr. would have been a much better fit for that spot, but they don't want to push him. And it's weird because they're actually, I think they're siblings, the two of them.
They're brothers, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit weird there. So which is the next guy that you wanted to talk about, Gavin?
That's actually that's the main one of the people I had checked. Now, there's probably some lesser bit players. Other than, I also want to just mention real quick.
Ivelisse.
I was going to say, Ivelisse has been a star. She's been I think she's one of the shining spots of this season. Yes. Is there anybody who disagrees with that?
No.
So, Ivelisse, if you're listening, that's the highest praise we can give you. We don't need to debate you. You're a star.
We actually forgot to talk about her the last time on the Lucha Underground podcast, so this is basically our apology to her. Please don't hurt us.
The baddest bitch in the building.
She's been great. Let's do. Are there any smaller characters people want to talk about?
I'll bring up one. I mentioned him earlier. Joey Ryan's been very good as a sleazy 1980s adult film guy. Like, he looks like a 1980s adult film star that plays a sleazy cop, and it's really good. I think we're going into Aztec Warfare later, so I'll mention something about him there. Correct, Kevin?
Go ahead. You can mention it now. We're not doing any recaps of episodes, so.
Okay, so when he probably had, I was like, when he came out, he took out the handcuffs onto the railing, handcuffed himself, and he's like, now try and pin me, which was genius, which was, this is probably a smart plan. He'll just last till the end and then go beat the last guy. Well, he's a heel, so that got backfired. That got backfired and got ripped off the building by Mil and got punched by everybody that walked past him. That was fantastic character by him.
So I about Joey Ryan, because I'm not familiar with. Is he supposed to be like a porn star from the 70s? That's him, right? That's what I thought. That's what he is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That is great.
He's the master of dong style. He can flip people with that.
Yeah,
I've
there's no
seen,
deal for that.
I've seen clips.
The infamous penis flex.
What was that, Krieger?
I said the infamous penis flex.
Yes. The most culturally relevant thing in wrestling in 2016, ladies and gentlemen. Joey Ryan suplexing people with his dick. It got on SportsCenter.
Yeah, I did.
That actually kind of tells you just how bad SportsCenter has gotten. That it needs to focus on content from Joey Ryan.
Hey, the way I look at it is, unlike WWE, Joey Ryan didn't have to pay them a dime to get featured on SportsCenter. He just went out and did it. So good on him.
He and then his match with his fiance on how the intergender, there was like a ref bump. He proposed. That's when he proposed, and then he rolled her up for the victory. And then she was like, "Why'd you do that? I need the winner's purse for the ring."
There you go. I did not know that, but that's fantastic.
It's like a 2-minute clip on somewhere if you want to Google
I am going to look that up, definitely.
That's fantastic. That is. Okay, so who are some... Anybody else want to talk about some of the other players?
Are we going to discuss Sexy Star? Are we going to discuss her? Or no?
I've got very little
think we
to say about
should,
her, but
because
go ahead, Tanya.
I know the spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything.
We are not spoiling anything.
No, we definitely not. But I just wanted to know what everybody's thoughts on her were, because when I first experienced her, the ideal of Sexy Star, I was like, oh, well, this is great. Former abused woman, she got into wrestling, to empower women. And the thoughts is very much appreciated. I wish they had given it to a more
someone who can actually wrestle.
Performer.
Yes. Just come right out and say
she's not very...
Someone who can actually wrestle, who has attire beyond a sports bra and short shorts.
She's not very good.
Wasn't she? I also believe she also plays a heel in AAA.
Well, she does not anymore. She has left AAA entirely because she refused to drop one of their belts.
And she screwed Pentagon over at the same time because they're mixed tag team partners.
So she is technically retired from AAA. Yeah, her and Pentagon in Mexico were tag partners, and they held belts together, an intergender title. And it never got defended, but most belts in Mexico never get defended anyways. It's a different thing there, but the time had come for them to defend the belt and there was going to be a title change against. Sexy Star didn't want to do the job, so she, quote-unquote, retired from AAA and left Pentagon hanging dry. So Sexy Star sucks.
Oh my God! Like on top of how weak a performer she is, she has this ego and she's a mark for herself.
Yep.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
That is. Oh wow.
That's why I didn't really want to say much about Sexy Star. I don't really have much to say about her.
But I was a fan initially, and she's been like single-handedly the most disappointing thing about Lucha Underground to me, because I don't have a problem with intergender. I just think it should be booked a certain way. That's just my opinion. But if you have this female character, like, make sure she's good, like really good, like she deserves that spot. And I thought that, like, the first match, I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Then I kept watching her wrestle, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she's terrible.
Okay.
But it seems like she's going to be one of the featured players coming up, and I don't look forward to that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that as the seasons unfold. All right. We're about 70 minutes here. Is there any other characters anybody else wants to talk about?
Well, we have two that we have missed thus far, Kevin, and we should probably give them their due.
Alrighty, go ahead.
Thank Lord that Dario Cueto has returned to his precious temple and kicked out all of the other puny luchadors that try to stand in his way. And he brought along with him the most wonderful performer of Lucha Underground, in my personal opinion, thus far this season, the monster, Matanza Cueto!
That's quite an announcement there, Fizz. I think you should start doing your podcast in that voice.
Well, it started out Spanish, wandered into Swedish, then wandered back into Spanish at the end.
Well, the point is that Lucha Underground hasn't really been that good thus far this season, as we've seen in this podcast, until Dario returned and just said, Matanza, go grab championship belt. Yes, brother. And proceeds to smash every single luchador in Aztec Warfare.
Now you went Russian.
Yes. And, it's...
Come, brother,
I've been really impressed thus far with Matanza this season. The little that I have seen of him, it just speaks to me. Guy that destroys Rey Mysterio, wonderful. Guy that destroys the Mac, wonderful. Guy that destroys Prince Puma, wonderful.
Yeah, Matanza is my favorite story in Lucha Underground because they've been slowly building him up over time. From the very first show. The very first show, opening, the key is around Dario Cueto's neck. The very first shot of Dario Cueto, the very first... That's right. Building Matanza's first shot of the first show, and I think that's just... The foresight required to do that is amazing.
Yeah. That was the one storyline that they really tried to do an excellent job on, because you have Dario, who's able to carry the weight of the acting, and then you have Matanza, who's can be just this big, menacing, destructive presence. I love the outfit, I love the mask, and the Splatterhouse overalls. I wonder if Eric Rowan is missing a pair of overalls at this point.
He wears it better.
Coveralls. They're coveralls, not overalls.
Yeah.
He wears it way better. Matanza wears it much better. It's him.
And I just love the suplexes and the what I call Tour of Monster Island finisher that he does. Everything about those two thus far is the one thing that really clicks for me this season. So, Turney, do you want to continue on with what you were doing?
No, you're absolutely not wrong. They've been really great. I think we mentioned both, and I just mentioned in passing how Dario came back, the tempo got better, or Matanza and Mill had that fantastic match. And I know some people are kind of worried about the Brock Lesnar factor and how
I am.
And that's a very valid concern, but at the same time, I like it when a promotion gets bold. I like the idea of Vader walking into some of Japan's biggest arenas and just beating the shit out of Antonio Inoki. Their biggest star just utterly squashes them, causes a riot. That's a great thing for wrestling.
Got them banned from the arena that they did it in for 2 years.
It's great. And I love when a promotion does something like that. So I loved how Matanza just came in and instantly sucked up all the oxygen and destroyed everything. Who knows how that's going to get paid off, but I like how every now and then you need somebody like that, especially, and this is one coming back to the issue with Krieger mentioned relative to WWE, to see guys booked into the shit of 50-50 for so many years, it's refreshing to see some dude just come out and wreck shop.
What I find very interesting that I've noticed in this podcast so far is that everybody is making really big comparisons to WWE, and I think that that's actually a very bad thing for Lucha Underground, is that we're now suddenly making comparisons to the big promotion, where in reality Lucha Underground needs to be different. Do you agree there?
I mean, that's inevitable, though.
Yes, inevitable.
It's going to get compared to, like, WWE is the standard. Whether people like it or not, they are. They're the longest running. They've made the most money. They're the most visible. So if you're a wrestling promotion and you try to get visible, especially in America, you're going to be compared to WWE, especially if you start. And I mean, you have to, because there's only so many wrestlers that you can hire. So you're going to get some WWE guys. They're going to compare. It's not necessarily fair, but it's going to happen. And most people that are watching Lucha Underground either still watch WWE or they used to at some point in their life.
They got Mundo is the WWE. one of their writers who should still be there was former WWE SmackDown writer.
It's, Chris Joseph, I do believe.
Yes.
He's also their producers. He was on air as Big Dick
I
Johnson.
was going to say, Big Dick Johnson. Who would have ever thought he'd become a successful producer?
Right. Right.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so, like I say, is there any other stars we want to do real quick, or should we go into the go-home segment here?
I was just
Yeah, we
gonna
can
say,
take it home.
John Mill.
there's one person from season 1 that did really well, but I understand why they don't use him as much. Drago. He was huge in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't used him much. And then
I did like their beginning of the storyline between him and Jack Evans, where Evans started proclaiming himself the Dragon Slayer, and because once again Jack Evans is great. I hope they go back to it just so I can see Jack doing Jack things.
they set up PJ Black, Jack Evans with Aerostar, Drago. They haven't built on it anything, but I know they set that up. And then Mac is a 290-pound guy that's like a cruiserweight.
He's great. He is.
Mac actually looks like he's lost weight from season 1, and I hate to be like superficial ever, but when I first saw the Mac in season 2, I'm like, looks like the dude dropped 30-40 pounds, and he moves a lot better in the ring. So
because I think Mac is somebody who still wants to get to WWE, so I think he's using Lucha Underground as a resume to get there.
Okay, yeah.
He's younger too, so he does.
Well, in show, Mac would be kind of depressed because his cousin Big Rick got murdered.
He's missing. Remember? Missing?
No, if you read the there's Lucha Underground comics. Big Rick had his skull ripped out and added to Mill's throne.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a little dark.
Especially after his eye got burned.
Yep.
Yeah, he kind of had a occupational. I hope the occupational pay was good there. He had some hazards.
In reality, Big Rick actually retired from professional wrestling. That's why the Mac was inserted into Sexy Star's thing with Marty the Moth and his sister. It's because that was originally slated for Big Rick, who was kind of had a mutual respect thing going with Big Rick and Sexy Star during season 1. So the Mac basically inherited that.
Yeah, that story. That's like one of the storylines that they have, and they haven't moved with it too much recently. But
again, it's a situation you've listed that they don't move their storylines ahead like they used to. It's always constantly stagnant molasses. They're relying on the cool factor too much. Oh, look, he's a luchador. He's cool. Cheer for him. Instead of actually moving the storylines forward like a serialized series would.
Which is what they did in season 1.
Yeah. They've gotten too comfortable with what they are doing right now to actually change anything.
Okay, so we're going to do a little go-home segment here. We gave our grades in the beginning. Let's just do real quick 30 seconds from each person here, what we can do to make it better. Now, I gave it a D+ originally. I didn't really like this last week's episode. I have liked a lot of the previous ones since Aztec Warfare, where they've begun to flesh out a lot of the stories and show attention to detail. And I can see them really improving that grade for me the rest of this season. It may be too late to get an A just because of, I think, of how low it started. But if they start filling out their stories, I think you can get a B pretty well here. You can get into the B territory pretty easily. So, Lucha Underground, show attention to detail. Gabe, what can they do quickly to help improve in your eyes?
They should, like, season 1, they ran, there's like 5 stories within a 1-hour segment. Now it's like 1 or 2. They need to go, if they go back to that, it'll improve. See,
okay.
That was the key.
All right, Fizz?
Let's go with Vaughn first, because I
go
think
ahead, Krieger. Is there anything you think that you would hope they improve on?
I think they should go back to doing multiple vignettes over the course of the show. Lately, they've been doing one in the beginning and one at the end, and then just matches in the middle. And the thing they did last season so well is the little packages. It's at the start. There's the Johnny Mundo, Prince Puma, Awesome Best Friends Buddy handshake, and all the awesome debut backstory vignettes. I'd like to see them continue doing the like backstory vignettes, interesting vignettes, developing the characters more. Basically flesh out the characters more and have them doing things that aren't just pro wrestling.
Okay, all right, excellent. Fizz?
Tanya, do you have anything?
So he wants to go last. Okay. Well, I agree with what everyone said because I feel like Lucha Underground was more like a story last year, and it has become more of a wrestling show with a little story splashed in. You know, flesh out the story a little bit more. But another thing I also just want to say, stop with the unprotected head shots.
Oh,
you know, chair shots, cinder blocks, whatever. Stop hitting people in the head with hard stuff. Let's try to protect each other and
cinder blocks.
Well, the cinder block.
I just don't like moves that focus on your head getting hit by something hard.
Okay, that's all right. Let's okay, so we're running a little short on time here, so it's Fizz. You can't escape now. Give us your quick 30-second take on how to improve.
Okay, sure thing. Basically, there is realistically, nothing that Lucha Underground at this point can do to make me back into a regular viewer again. I've already decided with my viewing. Thanks so much to Rex Aronovic for providing the gateway to CMLL, because that was not what they had in mind. They wanted people to tune in for AAA. Instead, I'm leaving the sinking ship and going over to this promotion. A lot of people complain about it because it's overly conservative, but I like it a lot better than what Lucha Underground was doing with their Americanized style lucha. And I think that there is some stuff that they could potentially improve upon, but I'm sticking with my F grade. As the start of the story, I said F. There we go.
Very well. It's all fan opinions are valid, or at least welcome to the table. Okay, that'll be it for today. This has been Cageside Speaks doing a mid-season review of Lucha Underground. Next week, either Fitzpatrick or myself will be doing the payback for WWE, the post-Fallout for payback for that one, and then once they finalize all the names for the Global Cruiserweight Series, we will be doing a podcast on that, but they actually need to finish finalizing those names, so do check with us for that. But other than that, hope you guys have enjoyed it, and hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.